I will join him clarifying and consolidating some of his statements. So I will now turn over the proceedings to the Honorable Saddam Hussein, who will now address you. Saddam.
Thank you very much, Senator Wade Mark. Good afternoon, members of the media. Good afternoon to the viewing public on all our social media platforms. Today, I owe it to the population to respond to the naked and blatant lies by none other than the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And today I will debunk the statements that he would have made at that press conference under the umbrella of the office of the Prime Minister. Firstly, the Prime Minister abused his authority of using the office of the Prime Minister to have a total campaign for what we see in the upcoming THA elections. But I am not concerned about the Prime Minister's distractions and his tomfoolery. I am concerned about giving to the population the facts as they are with respect to this I.A.N Gate matter. The Prime Minister raised several concerns, and the first issue I would like to respond to is that the Prime Minister sought to attack the credibility of the Integrity Commission. That's the first point he did. And he said that I would have had some sort of access to private information within the Integrity Commission. That is a blatant lie, and I deny those statements by the Prime Minister. I want to inform the Prime Minister of what the law says, because it seems as though he is not too familiar with what the law says. And I have raised concerns regarding his conduct under the Integrity in Public Life Act. So I want to read some sections of this particular piece of law to bring some sort of clarification to the matter. Under Section 14 of the Act, it says, a person in public life shall file with his declaration under Section 11 an additional statement of registrable interest in the prescribed form, which shall contain the information required by subsection 3. So let's understand what that means firstly. It means that a person in public life has to file two forms. And I have the two forms in my possession. They have to file firstly what we call a Form A. This is the Form A. This is the secret form which the Prime Minister speaks to. No one has access to this form besides the person who made the declaration and the Integrity Commission. So that's the first point. The second point is the Form B. This particular Form B is what we call a statement of a registrable interest. And this particular Form B, this form is the form that the public has access to. Which means that any member of the public, according to Section 14 of the Act, which says that the Registrar of the Integrity Commission shall compile and cause to be entered in a register of interest all information furnished pursuant to subsection 1, and shall, at the request of any member of the public, permit the inspection of such register. So that means that once a person in public life files a Form B, any member of the public has access to go and inspect this particular form. And the Prime Minister is saying that somehow we had access to secret information. No, Prime Minister. The information that we had at our disposal and the inspection done was in respect to your particular Form B, in which you would have filed with the Integrity Commission for the year ending 31st of December 2019. So that's the first point, and the difference between the Form A and the Form B. Now, in the Form B, there is a particular section in the Form B that a person has to fill out. And at page 4 of the Form B, it says that the declarant is saying that I have beneficial interest in the following lands. And you have to say the location of the land. You have to indicate the description of the land and the area of the land and the beneficial interest held. So the Prime Minister, according to our checks, which were done last Thursday, being the 25th of November 2021, showed that there was no declaration for the townhouse at I.A.N Gate, which was acquired in February of 2019. So this is the Form B. And the Form B says you must put the location, description, and area of the land and your beneficial interest which you hold in the land. So that's the first point. The Prime Minister, in his address today, admitted that he did not declare the townhouse in his Form B. And he also said that the Form B is available to the public. So then that begs the question, Prime Minister, why didn't you declare on your Form B this I.A.N Gate townhouse? Because if you say you don't have to put the lands that you own on the Form B, well then, today I will read out your other declarations. In the year 2019 on your Form B, you declared you had a residential property development in Mason Hall, Lakoto Road. And secondly, you had the Alma Estate. So that's for 2019. In 2018, you had the Alma Estate. And then you had the residential property development, Mason Hall, Lakoto Road, Forest Hill Developments, property owned spouse Sharon Rowley. In 2017, you had the Alma Estates and again the residential property development, Mason Hall, Lakoto Road, Forest Hill Developments. So Prime Minister, you have in fact declared properties that you would have owned or your spouse would have owned on your Form B. The I.A.N Gate townhouse is owned by yourself and your spouse, which means that that should have found its way at the Form B of the Integrity in Public Life Act. Then I looked at the other persons who were purchasers of townhouses in Tobago in the I.A.N Gate development. Do you know Miss Ingrid Lashley declared her townhouse on her Form B in the year 2020? She declared her townhouse at I.A.N Gate for the year 2019. I go to Mr. Newman George, who also purchased a townhouse in Tobago. In his Form B, he declared that he owned a townhouse in I.A.N Gate for the year 2020. Mr. Newman George sits on several state enterprises and is also the Speaker, the husband of the Speaker of the House. Mr. Alvin Hilaire, Governor of the Central Bank, he declared that he owned the townhouse for 3 years. He declared in his 2018, his 2019, and his 2020 Form B declarations. So, why it is the Prime Minister did not declare his townhouse owned by himself and his spouse on the Form B? So it begs the question again, Prime Minister, what were you hiding from the public, not seeing your Form B in terms of your townhouse? I asked the question. So don't come and say that we have misled the population, because we have relied on the information that is legally available to the public under the Integrity in Public Life Act. We have gone no further than that, because any member of the public can be allowed to enter into the Integrity Commission and inspect the Register of Interest, where they will see all of the properties owned within your Form B. So that's that point, Mr. Prime Minister, and I rest that there. Now, when you look at some other statements made by the Prime Minister said earlier on this week in the Express that the UNC is trying to pin a gentleman called Alan Warner to this entire issue, and that Alan Warner is a personal friend, and that he did not get any contract for the construction of the Prime Minister's residence in Tobago. And then today the Prime Minister changes the story, The Prime Minister comes and tells the nation that all he had, according to UDICOT, was a contract to pave the road at the Prime Minister's residence in Tobago. So Prime Minister, again, we are seeing where this is coming from. Now, I had a look at the Auditor General's report for the years 2019 and 2020. So I have the Auditor General's reports for the years 2019 and 2020. And within the Auditor General's report, at volume 3 of those reports, there is something called the Accounts of Administering Officers, Funds Financial Statements of Ministries and Departments. When you look at those accounts, members of the media, the road that the Prime Minister is speaking about that Mr. Alan Warner's company would have constructed, called Warner Construction and Sanitation Company, to build the road, it cost the taxpayers $5.3 million. UDCOT subcontracted Mr. Alan Warner for road construction of $5.3 million. This, according to the Auditor General's report, is the contract amount VAT exclusive, and it even says that the contract was in fact awarded. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to tell you today that we did not, the UNC, pin you to Mr. Alan Warner. You know. It was your own leader, Mr. Patrick Manning, deceased Patrick Manning, on the 30th of September 2008, who raised issues in the Parliament regarding your relationship with one Mr. Alan Warner. And to cement the point, the company that has gotten this contract for $5.3 million for road construction at the Prime Minister's residence, according to the annual returns for Warner Construction and Sanitation Limited, Mr. Alan Warner, up until the year 2021, when the annual returns were filed, indicated that Mr. Alan Warner is a director of the company. So, Mr. Prime Minister, we have exposed your blatant lie once again. Mr. Prime Minister, you did not explain to the population today why you failed to put the declaration of your townhouse in your Form B with the Integrity Commission so that the public could have seen it. Secondly, Mr. Prime Minister, you skirted around and you gave no response with respect to the massive discount of about $500,000 for this particular townhouse. Because we have seen the valuation according to the Stamp Duty Division, the Board of Inland Revenue, is saying that the townhouse is valued at about $1.68 million. And you would have paid $1.2 million for this, about $500 million discount from the particular townhouse, which also should have been declared as a gift and or personal benefit. So, Prime Minister, today your press conference left the country with little or no answers. But members of the media, I remind you that yesterday I did in fact make a complaint, an official complaint, to the Chairman of the Integrity Commission for a full investigation into this matter. So I await the outcome of what the Integrity Commission has to say. We cannot believe the Prime Minister. Today the Prime Minister waved up a piece of paper and saying, look, this is my Form A, look, I filed it. Mr. Prime Minister, you're playing smart with foolishness. No one has access to that Form A besides you. Mr. Prime Minister, I remind you, when you came to the Parliament and waved up 5 pieces of copybook paper and called that email gate, you were exposed for lying on a former Prime Minister within the precincts of the Parliament. So, Prime Minister, we do not believe you. We do not believe you. And Mr. Manning did in fact, and I want to read what Mr. Manning would have said on that day when he linked Dr. Rowley to Mr. Alan Warner, because it's not a UNC issue. This was done by Mr. Manning. And Mr. Manning said that he had concerns with respect to what happened. And I'll read. The next thing happened is Mr. Warner subcontracts that contracted company many times the size of his own firm. As we understand it, if you are subcontracting, it is a big firm that subcontracts to a small firm. A small firm does not subcontract to a big firm. Mr. Manning is saying, I found that very curious. He goes on to say, what is worse is he subcontracted to a firm that was operating in Tobago on a government contract at the time, at a similar stage of development to the land-based project, and in respect of which the materials could have been interchangeable. This is what happened. I do not know what the answer is. All I'm saying is that I found it very strange. How could a small firm subcontract to a larger firm? This is not my words. These are the words of deceased Patrick Manning, who would have said this on Tuesday, September 30th, 2008. So Mr. Rowley, Dr. Rowley, do not play smart with foolishness. We await the outcome from the Integrity Commission, because at this stage we do not believe you. You have lost all of your credibility. I now pass you on, members of the media, to Senator Wademark.
Thank you, my colleague and friend, the Honorable Saddam Hussein. Members of the media, what this country, and indeed the world, witnessed earlier today was the antics of a desperate Prime Minister attempting to spin his way out of what I can only describe as this inexplicable conundrum that he is faced with. I want to tell the Prime Minister that no amount of spin, no amount of fluff, no amount of fake outrage or outrageous deflections, distractions, and or distortions of the reality will exonerate the Prime Minister from full responsibility and accountability as it relates to his failure, as far as we are concerned, to declare in his Form B to the Integrity Commission his property at I.A.N's Gate Development, which he purchased, and his spouse in February of 2019. He failed to declare in his 2019 integrity in public life form the property that he purchased for $1.2 million. I want to remind the public, the Prime Minister could dance as if he's in a trance. That is his business. Our business, Mr. Prime Minister, is to hold you to account and to bring you to book for any misdeeds that we perceive that you have committed. And this is why we have said that the Prime Minister bought a property that was advertised for $1.8 million in 2019, and he bought that property for $1.2 million, gaining a discount of some $600,000. And Mr. Prime Minister, no amount of fluff, distortion, distraction, deflection can escape you from explaining to the country why you did not declare in your Form B that property that you purchased in February of 2019, and why also you failed to declare to the Integrity Commission the $600,000 gift that was luckily provided to you by your best friend or your good friend. as you claim. We are not casting any aspersions on the Prime Minister. We are calling on the Prime Minister to be truthful, to come clean, to tell the truth. Members of the public, let me indicate, I have been in public life for over 20 years. I just completed my submission of my 2020 statement on my income, assets, liabilities. And I want to tell members of the media and members of the public and members of the population of Trinidad and Tobago, you must, listen very carefully, you must, under law, declare every property you own and you have a beneficial interest in, and the location of those properties in your Form B. That has been done for 20 years and more by me under the penalty of a fine and jail term if I did not declare that, so that any member of the public can go to the Integrity Commission upon making an application and you can inspect my assets that I have declared. So for the Prime Minister to come and tell the population, Mr. Prime Minister, don't take the population for any fool or for fools. The population is highly intelligent. And we know foolishness from smartness. And you attempted to play smart with foolishness today in order to distort and deflect and distract from your situation. So it is very clear to us that the Prime Minister did not declare in his Form B his I.A.N's gate property to the Integrity Commission. And as such, the Prime Minister of this country would have broken the law. And this is why we have called on the Integrity Commission to have a thorough investigation into this matter, because a former Prime Minister was charged and was put in the jail cells, was put in jail for what? Not declaring a bank account to the Integrity Commission. This is worse because you have a sitting Prime Minister who has a property in that place called I.A.N's Gate, and we have looked at the Form B. Mr. Prime Minister, you cannot tell us, you admitted today you did not declare in Form B. And then as Saddam Hussein said, you waived something today telling the country, this is your Form A, and you declared it in Form A. Mr. Prime Minister, if you declared it in Form A, the law says you must declare it in Form B. And by the way, Mr. Prime Minister, I saw that you stayed very silent. You said nothing on the acquisition of the property of your daughter for the same $1.2 million. A property that was purportedly valued at $1.6 million. And your good friend, who you are in business with, according to you, via Alma Farms, borrowed from Republic Bank, as we understand it, $1.4 million to purchase this property, valued at $1.6 million. And then you went some months later, that is Mr. Alan Warner, your good friend, and sold that property to your daughter, Dr. Sonel Rowley Einstein. For what? $1.2 million. Giving your daughter a discount of close to $400,000. You fail to share that with the public. How come, you know, as I said at the last press conference, you and your daughter were so lucky? We are just asking questions. We are not casting any aspersions on you or your good daughter. We are happy that you bought two townhouses, and we are happy also that you got a major discount. I hope that when I approach Alan Warner to buy a Inez Gate property, he would be so kind to give us this major discount as well. But how come he didn't give Newman George that discount? How come he didn't give Ingrid Lashley the same discount that you got and your daughter? How come he didn't give to Newman George that same discount? Something is wrong, Mr. Prime Minister. And no amount of fake outrage is going to change the price of cocoa or coffee. This is why I told the country the activities that is involving our Prime Minister reminds me of that famous movie in 1993 starring a fella called Jacques-Claude Van Damme. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to run. So the Prime Minister is trapped. He's caught. He's naked. He has no clothes. And instead of admitting to his error and seeking forgiveness, the Prime Minister goes on the attack and attempt to impugn the character of the Integrity Commission. I find that most disturbing. I find it most dangerous. Why would the Prime Minister seek to drag the Integrity Commission into a matter that is properly before it? Is the Prime Minister trying to intimidate? Is the Prime Minister trying to bully? Is the Prime Minister trying to intimidate the members of the Integrity Commission? Why would you want to accuse the opposition of having access to your Form A? And therefore, if we had access, according to you, to your Form A, then somebody in the Integrity Commission would have made that available to us. What are you doing? Why are you trying to impugn the good name of the Integrity Commission and the members that make up the board of the commission, of the Integrity Commission? Why are you trying to impugn the good name of the professional staff of the Integrity Commission? Why, Mr. Prime Minister? Mr. Prime Minister, this is very serious matters that we are dealing with here. And we find it very disturbing that you would attempt to impugn, as I said, the good name of the Integrity Commission. And as my friend also indicated, look, there is Form A and there is Form B. Form A is secret and confidential only to the Integrity Commission and the person who is filling out that form. Why would the Integrity Commission indicate that they are looking into this matter? And the Prime Minister is querying. Imagine that. This gentleman who is our Prime Minister is behaving like if he's a dictator and an emperor of this country. He's asking the Integrity Commission, what are you inquiring into? What are you going to be addressing? Why are you having a meeting to discuss this statement that has been made. So as if to tell the Integrity Commission, you have no business, Integrity Commission, in dealing with any matter. Because you know why? The Prime Minister is above the law. The Prime Minister seems to be above the law. But I want to tell the Prime Minister today, he has threatened certain actions. We are not going to be scared. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to allow the Prime Minister to muzzle us from speaking out on issues that impact on the country's resources and on the integrity, transparency, and also good governance as it relates to decision making in our country. We have a responsibility to call out not only the Prime Minister, but anyone else in this country who we as the members of the opposition believe has run afoul of the law. So it is very clear to us that when we looked at what the Prime Minister said today, when we listened to him and his statements today, the Prime Minister confessed, he admitted on certain things that he accused us initially of not really speaking the truth on. As we said, he indicated for the first time that Mr. Warner, his good friend, played a big role in paving not only his driveway, but the road leading to the residence. And our friend Saddam Hussein just identified in an Auditor General's report that it cost the taxpayers some $5.3 million. So, Mr. Prime Minister, come again. Do better. You cannot run from your responsibility. You had a duty under the law to declare on Form B your interest in that property in I.A.N Gate, which you bought in February of 2019, I beg your pardon, February of 2019. And I updated my colleagues' information. We thought it was $500,000 that he gained on discount and got as a gift. When we did further inquiries, it went up by $100,000. Because at the time when the Prime Minister purchased that townhouse in February of 2019, the asking price was 1.8. He paid 1.2. He got a discount of 600,000. He needs to explain that to the country and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. There are many other issues, as I told the population, that we will have to address. Prime Minister, we put you on notice. There's no end in sight as it relates to activities that you may be involved in, either directly or indirectly. This is what can only be called Act 1, Scene 1. We have Act 1, Scene 2 very shortly to launch. So you are going to be in a desperate mood because you have a lot of accounting to do. There's a lot of accountability you have to provide. You have to come clean. You have to be transparent. You have to be open. You have to be clean and clear with the population as it relates to your activities in Tobago. And I did hear the Prime Minister say something, and Mr. Prime Minister, if I'm wrong, correct me. You said, if I'm not mistaken, that you are proud to be exporting farm products to Trinidad. Did I hear you correctly? Is the Prime Minister involved in the export and sale of his farm products, which he is rearing on his farm in Tobago. So in other words, if what I heard is true, and Prime Minister, I ask you to correct me if I'm wrong. Is the Prime Minister a businessman? Is the Prime Minister involved in business? Is the Prime Minister exporting meat and milk from his goat farm in Tobago, in Mason Hall, to Trinidad, to supermarkets? And if that is so, is the Prime Minister declaring this in his integrity in public life forms, both Forms A and Form B? I think I heard him say this. And I really would like the Prime Minister to clear the air for Trinidad and Tobago, whether you are now in the business of exporting meat and milk from your farm to Trinidad. Not to mention you're selling that in Tobago. And you have to make up your mind. Are you the Prime Minister of this country? Or are you an entrepreneur? You are conflicted, Mr. Prime Minister. We need you to clarify these issues for the people of our beloved country. And don't give us fluff and flam and spin and distortion and deflection and destruction and fake and false rage. That is not going to cut it, Mr. Prime Minister. You have questions to answer. You had a press conference. You went all over the mulberry bush and you have not answered the questions. That is why we call on the Integrity Commission to pursue in a fearless way your investigation into this matter. This is a very serious matter involving our Prime Minister, and the Integrity Commission has a duty and a responsibility not to allow the Prime Minister to intimidate you, not to allow the Prime Minister to bully you, not to allow the Prime Minister to use terror tactics on you. And this is what I gleaned from what he attempted to do today by trying to impugn the good name of the members of the Integrity Commission led by its chairman, not to mention the professional staff employed at the Integrity Commission. So I would like at this time to pause, and I think my colleague will want to make another point, and then we will open the press conference to the media for any questions, any concerns you would like us to elaborate upon. Saddam?
Thank you very much, Senator Mark. You touched on it earlier on with respect to the other transaction in relation to the townhouse acquired by the daughter of the Prime Minister, Sonia Rowley. After several examination of those particular deeds, it would have shown that there are some suspicious transactions that would have taken place. And I would like to just give an explanation of what I mean. Mr. Alan Warner purchased the townhouse from I.A.N Investments Limited, and the deed is dated the 13th of September 2019. But Mr. Warner would not have been the proper owner of the land, because the townhouse, because it was only released from escrow on the 3rd of February 2020, following year. So between that intervening period, there would have been a deed of mortgage that Mr. Warner would have taken from One Republic Bank at a sum of $1.4 million. According to the stamp duty Mr. Alan Warner paid, it would have been $1.6 million was the value of the property. So let's get that clear. He would have made a down payment, and then he took a mortgage for $1.4 million to pay out for the townhouse, or for whatever reason. But the value according to the stamp duty on the deed itself, it's $1.6 million. So Mr. Warner, according to the deed also, would have paid $1.6 million. So the deed also has a value of $1.6 million he purchased his townhouse for. So, being the owner in around February 2020, Mr. Warner would have serviced the mortgage and he would have paid off the mortgage on the 13th of April 2021. So that's the timeline. Subsequently to that, by deed dated the 5th of August 2021, Mr. Warner sold that particular townhouse to Dr. Samuel Rowley. And he sold this townhouse to Ms. Rowley at a cost of $1.2 million, which meant that he would have sold the townhouse for a loss of $400,000. So from the period September 2019 to the period 2021, he would have sold the townhouse for less than what he purchased. So she would have also paid $1.2 million, just like her father, for that particular townhouse. Now, according to the FIU regulations, Guidance Note on Suspicious Transactions and Activity Reporting Standards, which was updated on September 2019, at page 10 it says that a red flag which points to money laundering is where a client wants to resell property shortly after purchase at a significantly different purchase price without corresponding changes in market values in the same area. So this raises suspicious concerns now with respect to this transaction, because Mr. Warner, being a businessman, sold the property, one, at a very short space of time for a loss of about $400,000. So that's the first point. And the second point with respect to this is that the townhouse, when the deed was executed to Ms. Samuel Rowley, Mr. Warner paid $29,500 in stamp duty, whereas Ms. Rowley only paid, let me just get the deed. Ms. Rowley only paid, sorry, I have it here. Ms. Rowley only paid $10,500 on stamp duty. So that's the two concerns we have here automatically with respect to this particular transaction. And then the person who prepared the deed for Ms. Samuel Rowley is Sharon Clark Rowley, attorney at law, MG Daly and Partners of 121 Henry Street, Port of Spain. So these are some of the other concerns that we have with respect to this particular transaction, and therefore these particular transactions, as you know, are governed under the Financial Intelligence Unit once real estate is involved. So therefore, Senator Mark said that this is part one. There's more to come. And therefore, we will have to take the necessary actions with respect to finding out the circumstances of these particular transactions, because they are cause for much concern. So that is the last issue I wish to raise at today's press conference.
Members of the media, the press conference is now open to any questions that members of the media would like to raise concerning this press conference we have just concluded, and maybe matters that you would like us to clarify further. So the conference is now open to the media to seek clarification.
Thank you. We're Singh from the Trinidad Guardian. And I got here a bit after the press conference started. But could you, Mr. Singh, could you explain the difference in Forms A and Form B? Form A, I know it stipulates its income and assets, and then Form B is registrable interest. So what goes on Form A that must also be in Form B?
Yes, before you got here, I did in fact go through the two forms, right? So at section 14 of the Act, you have to fill out something called the Form B, which is the Form B here. And at page, just pull it down. At page 4 of the Form B form, it says that the person who declares, and it says it here, I have a beneficial interest in the following lands. So you have to give the location, the description and area of the land, and what is your beneficial interest, right? If you're a co-owner, if you're the full owner of the land. So this goes on the Form B. On the Form A, what you will stipulate is, for example, the cost that you paid, the date of acquisition, the estimated value. So more personal information with respect to the value. But all you do on the Form B, you just say that you own this or that you are co-owner of this. So for example, if I own this building that we're currently in the Form A, I will say exactly how much I paid for it, the date I acquired it, the cost of any additions that I would have put onto it. And on the Form B, all I will say is that I am the owner of this building. That's all. So the both forms must correspond because the Form A is secret, the Form B is public. So the secret form, no one has access, but the Form B is the public form, which you should inform the public what you own because you're personally in public life receiving public funds as your salary. Is that clear enough?
Yeah.
And Renuka, I don't know if you were here when Saddam would have also indicated that when we did our search at the Integrity Commission last week, Thursday, for the 2019 Integrity in Public Life Statement of Assets, Income and Liabilities, the governor of the central bank, who is one of the owners of the townhouses in Tobago, Chevron Road, Tobago, known as I.A.N Gate, he declared in his Form B the property. And similarly, when we go to a lady called Ingrid Lashley, she also declared in her Form B. And then he also indicated that Newman George also declared. So how the Prime Minister, a man who, as you know, was involved in the Land Aid scandal, and he took the Integrity Commission to the courts of Trinidad and Tobago because he argued that they had sent his matter to the Director of Public Prosecutions without giving him a chance to explain himself. So this is a gentleman who almost made a jail. But he went to court and he was vindicated. So if it's one person that ought to be extremely knowledgeable and who ought to know what he must put in his Form B, would be the Honorable Prime Minister of this country because of his encounter with the Integrity Commission. So we find it very ludicrous, we find it very suspicious, we find it very questionable for the Prime Minister to come and tell this country, I only placed that property that I own with my wife at I.A.N Gate in Chevron, Tobago in the Form A integrity form. I mean to say I'm not in Form B. He admitted that he did not include it in Form B, and he wants us in Trinidad and Tobago to believe that. You want me as an example who has been filing these forms for over 20 years, and every year I have filed, I have to indicate every property I own, every piece of land I own in Form B, and the Prime Minister doesn't know this? No. And then goes off on all kinds of distraction, distortion, deflection, attacking the Integrity Commission, attacking the media by telling the media why you're taking on the UNC, why you're publishing this thing. Like the Prime Minister forgets that we live in a democracy, and this is not Rowley's country. This is not Emperor Rowley's country. This is not a dictatorship to dictate to the media what they must print and what they must not print, and to dictate to the Integrity Commission what they must investigate and what they must not investigate. Totally out of line. Any further questions, members of the media?
Yes, Jan Slavin with the Newsday. Sticking on the same point. I don't know if this was mentioned earlier because we had some issues in coming this afternoon. What is the offense, if any, for not declaring it on Form B? Given that it's integrity in public life and he did declare it in Form A, which goes to the Integrity Commission, shouldn't that cover him, per se?
Jensen, thank you very much for the question. We're assuming that he did in fact file it in the Form A for 2019. None of us can see that form besides the Prime Minister and the Integrity Commission. So I wait on confirmation from the Integrity Commission to speak on whether or not he did in fact make the proper declaration for the year 2019 on his Form E. That's the first point. The second point is that at Section 21 of the Integrity in Public Life Act, it speaks to a person in public life who fails without reasonable cause to furnish to the Commission a declaration or further particulars which he is provided to furnish in accordance with the provisions of this Act. Now, the Act provides that you do two sets of declarations, your Form A and Form B. So this section covers both Form A and Form B declarations. And if someone is in breach of this, or they knowingly make false declarations, or fails without reasonable cause to give such information or explanation to the Commission or the Tribunal, is guilty of offence and liable on summary conviction of a fine of $250,000 and to imprisonment of a term of 10 years. I believe Mr. Pandey was sentenced to 2 years under his charge, if I can't remember, when he was in fact convicted under this particular legislation. So the section of Section 21 that creates the offence provides for declarations both at Form A and Form B. That answers your question?
Yes, and there is another one. You said you're waiting for confirmation. Now, the Prime Minister at the press conference today held up a document claiming that he declared his Form A. Given that the Integrity Commission seems to allow some leeway, because you also made mention of him getting an extension for declaration. Given that he claims, and I'm using the word claim here, given that he claims that he declared on Form A, and there is provision to allow for some sort of leniency and time to declare, couldn't he come at a later date and declare on Forms B?
So I think there are two issues you're interrelating, right? One issue is making an actual declaration. The second issue is the time in which you make the declaration. The actual declaration is what you put on your Form A and Form B. So for example, if you own a home or you purchased a home and you don't declare that becomes an offense. But every year, persons in public life have to file their declarations with the Integrity Commission. According to the law at Section 11, you must file a declaration on the 31st of May the following year. So for example, let me just give an example. So for the year 2020, as the end of 2020, the 31st of December 2020, a person will file his declaration for that year. The deadline is the 31st of May. The following year, which would be 2021. According to the law, you can ask the Integrity Commission for a deadline for up to 12 months to file for that particular year, right? Several persons use this this avenue to extend from May because of whatever reason that they may not get information. So when you say that there's leniency, it's not leniency per se, it is prescribed in the law that you are allowed a deadline to file your declaration. But that declaration must in fact contain the information that you own X, Y, and Z. Now, there is no leniency in that one because that is strict according to law. It means that if you own a house, you say you own a house. If you own a car, you own a car. So there is no leniency per se with respect to that particular issue because according to Section 21 of the Act now, it creates a criminal offense if you don't furnish the proper information within your declarations.
But what I was trying to get at is, if that is true, that he did declare on the Form A, right? You're saying that you still need to verify that. So let's assume that he did, according to him, he did. Form B, he did not, according to you again.
Yes.
Can he now say, because I declared on Form A, I am exempt from any criminal liability because I already declared it on Form A, and I can, if I need to, seek an extension to declare it on Form A?
But you see at Section 21, it makes no distinction between a Form A and Form B. It says that all declarations under the Act. So therefore, if you declare under Form A, you have a duty to declare under Form B. Otherwise, then you'll be tripping Section 21, which carries you into a criminal offense. So that's the point, that you have to make your declaration on the Form A and Form B. And the Form B is a very important form, Jensen, because that is the form that the public has access to. So the public can see exactly what the person in public life owns. So the point is that you have to make the declaration according to law on the both forms.
No. So we've already established that Alan is a long-standing friend of the Prime Minister, and that he has, through his company, has been benefited from several contracts into legal. But then we're raising the issue of a possibility of a red flag with the FIU looking at suspicious activity because of the disparity in what he purchased and what he sold the land. Are you saying that there are some money laundering issues going on here, or you just...
I am saying, Rebecca, with respect to that, is that is a matter for the FIU to have to look at, because that is the only regulatory body in Trinidad and Tobago that deals with issues relating to money laundering and financing of terrorism.
And will the UNC be making any official complaints to FIU and or FIB, which is the police?
Stay tuned for part 2.
And how soon will part 2?
Very soon.
Very soon. Yes, yeah.
Also, just to clarify,
yes,
also, does being a friend of the Prime Minister disqualify Mr. Warner from tendering for and or receiving government contracts?
That is a question in terms of how the contracts are awarded. If the tendering process in Trinidad and Tobago must be transparent, because we are still governed by the Central Tenders Board Act. We have been calling for the procurement legislation to be implemented, and now we might have to question why the government has been lagging on the full implementation of the procurement legislation. But I can't understand, Veronica, I don't know if you were here when I said it, is that the Prime Minister earlier this week said that Mr. Warner had nothing to do with the Prime Minister's residence. And then when I looked at the Auditor General report, there's a contract with over $5.3 million to pave a road. So all of those things raises a lot of questions, especially in your minds also as members of the media and members of the public.
Renuka, just to follow up on what my colleague has said, I think the time has come for the Prime Minister to inform this country. He boasts today, or he boasted, I should say, today, that he's a Tobagonian, which I am happy about. I think the time has come for the Prime Minister to provide a country with a detailed breakdown of all the contracts awarded both by the central government and the Tobago House of Assembly to the Warner Construction Company and its subsidiaries in the last 10 years. Or, let me put it another way. Since Dr. Romney became the Prime Minister in August of 2015, we would need to get from him a detailed breakdown of all those contracts given either through competitive bidding, sole selective bidding, or a singular kind of tender given to this company over the last 6 years. I think the Prime Minister owed it to this country and the value of these contracts. So we do not only want the names of these contracts, we want to know the value attached to each contract given to the Warner Company, both by the central government and by the Tobago House of Assembly. I think that is a very important area of concern that the public would need to clarify.
And just to add, it was not us who raised the concerns alone with Mr. Warner. It was Mr. Manning who did it since 2008 in the Parliament, who would have raised some red flags with respect to contracts being awarded to companies involved with Mr. Warner, I.A.N. Warner.
Now, I'm glad you touched on that point, because the Prime Minister said today that this is being raised now just to sidetrack the upcoming THA elections, and that the UNC is in bed, my words not his, with the PDP and the opposition in Tobago. Is this part of the UNC's political agenda too?
Typical Keith Rowley, desperate, trying to spin the issue. There are serious questions that he has to answer to the Integrity Commission, and he's distracting from those serious questions. And also, we have now raised issues that the FIU may have to get involved. So this issue is not just about not filing anymore, but it goes under the ambits of supervision under the Financial Intelligence Unit. We are not contesting the election, we are raising concerns with respect to what is taking place with transactions relating to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. This issue was raised previously. Further, we have always raised issues with respect to the Prime Minister. So there is not about timing, it is about holding the government to account.
And as I said earlier, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley is a desperate man, and he is holding on to whatever he can, straws. So what you have asked there is part of his narrative to seek to distort, deflect, and distract. That is what Dr. Rowley is about. He must answer the questions that are now put to him, and the country wants him to answer those questions, not to engage in distortions, not to engage in distractions, not to engage in deflections. That is not what we are concerned about. We want him to account. We want him to be transparent. We want him to be accountable to the people of this country. And no longer can he just raise issues and behave, as Manning described him, as a raging bull, right? In an effort to distract attention because he doesn't want to answer these questions. So we call on Dr. Rowley to answer these questions. And we call on the Integrity Commission to go ahead to proceed with your investigation without fear, without intimidation, without terror tactics, as we saw today attempted by the Prime Minister when he tried to impugn the good name of members of the Commission and of course the professional staff at the Integrity Commission. That is how we would like to respond to your concern.
And just to show how illogical Dr. Rowley's argument today was, is that he somehow alluded that I had private information or private access to the Form A that he would have filed. That is absolutely untrue. We only had access to his Form B through the law, of course, where any member of the public can go. And if Dr. Rowley is in fact saying that I had access to his Form A and that he did in fact file the House in his Form A for the period 2019, then why would I then accuse the Prime Minister of saying that he didn't make the proper declaration? So it makes absolutely no sense, and it is a clearly illogical argument by the Prime Minister.
Now, there was some other property on the Form B that were, the Form A that weren't on the Form B, I'm told. That the UNC did not raise issues.
Listen, before I continue, listen. Let us make it very clear to you and to the population. We, you, us in this room, have absolutely no access to Form A. That is a private and confidential document lodged with the Integrity Commission and the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister cannot come and wave something called a Form A and say, look, I declare this, look, I declare that, look, I declare the other. We have no access to that. The only body that can verify these matters is the Integrity Commission. Otherwise, we are chasing windmills. We don't know what the Prime Minister had. You remember the Prime Minister came to the Parliament back then and he waved a couple pages and he said, I see email late, and that turned out to be a farce. So let us not take the Prime Minister seriously at this time. Let us await the outcome from the Integrity Commission, which is the lawfully embodied or incorporated institution under our Constitution that deals with the matters that you are asking, my brother. Only the Integrity Commission can address those matters. We have no authority to address those matters because we don't know. We just don't know. Only the Integrity Commission would know, and the Prime Minister of this country, who would have filed that matter, would know. We don't know. So I'm sorry that we cannot help you on this particular question that you have raised, because we just don't have any knowledge of this matter. None whatsoever. Any further questions,
The
Renuka?
Prime Minister did state that this matter was now going to his lawyers. Are you concerned that it's going to, this possible threat of legal action?
Listen, the Prime Minister will not intimidate us. The Prime Minister will not bully us. The Prime Minister will not scare us. The Prime Minister can do whatever he wishes to do. But I want to give the Prime Minister of this country the assurance he will not escape scrutiny, accountability, transparency from the United National Congress. We are going to hold him to account and hold him to book. And he's not going to introduce any bullying tactics or scare tactics aimed at intimidating any member of the UNC, whether it's Saddam Hussein, whether it's Wade Mark, or whether it's any member of our United National Congress family. We shall hold the Prime Minister to book. We shall hold him to account. And no amount of threats, idle threats, to send this to his lawyer. You want to send it to your lawyer? You're free to do that. You want to sue? You're free to sue. That is your problem. What we are not prepared to do is to allow him to put a muzzle on our mouth so that we cannot deal with accountability issues. So, Mr. Prime Minister, come again. Please come again. I told the media, I told the country, this is Act 1, Scene 1. Look out for Act 1, Scene 2. Mr. Prime Minister, stand attuned. Please tune in. You are not over. We are not over with you. You have a lot of questions that you have to answer. So don't believe that you have escaped. We are coming at you in Scene 2. Act 1, Scene 2. Any further questions from the media?
Yeah, just going back on my previous point.
Yes.
Mr. Hussein, I sent you a WhatsApp there. This is the Form A that the Prime Minister would have held up at the press conference in today. Is there any other properties, as far as you're aware, that is on this Form A that is not on Form B, and are you going to raise issues with those as well?
I will. This is the first time. I'm seeing this picture that resembles a Form A. So I can't comment until I probably look at this, and I don't know how you got access to this.
Well, the Prime Minister allowed the media that were there to take photos of the Form A that he held up.
Okay. And this page is also not dated, Jensen. So I know he said he filed for the year 2020, Monday, gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what is the date of this form. If you can provide me with the other pictures, I will be very grateful, and I will provide a response to you on this matter. But this is not an official document or WhatsApp picture. I can't rely on this and say this is official.
I think the media should write to the Integrity Commission, and I don't need to respond to you. But this kind of document that he has made available to the media ought to be verified or validated by the only body that has the authority to validate. And I don't think, just from where I sit, I don't think the Integrity Commission will even entertain that, quite frankly. Because this is confidential information. So I am happy if the Prime Minister could go out there and tell Renuka or tell you or whoever, these are Form A, these are my form, and I fill out this and I fill out that. How is Renuka to verify that? How is Saddam to verify that? How are you to verify that? We can't. So that is like chasing windmills, as I told you. It makes no sense. Only the Integrity Commission can address this. And they are now in the process of investigating a complaint filed by the Honorable Saddam Hussein. In due course, we will know what is the outcome of the complaint. We can't know before, and we can't, take for granted what Dr. Rowley. I want to tell you something. I repeat, Dr. Rowley came into the Parliament and he waved a number of documents, and he said it's email date, and it turned out to be a fake. I just want to remind members of the media that history has a way of coming back to to haunt people who display fake information. Any further questions, members of the media? If none, I would like to thank.
I don't know if members of the media online have questions.
Yeah, well, my brother here would have indicated to me. Darren, is there any member of the media online who has any question to raise?
No, no, sir.
No. So anyway, thank you very much, Renuka. Thank you very much, my colleague, and have a great weekend. Because stay tuned. Act 1, Scene 1 is about to taper off. Prepare yourself for Act 1, Scene 2. Coming to a cinema near you. Okay? Thank you very much.
People still doing cinema.
Yes, thank you.
Everything is cheap.